Hi, and welcome to the unboxing of the California Tarot Shadows and Light. This is how the deck, this is how we're sending the decks. This is how the pre-orders received them. If you're ordering from our website, this is how we'll send it to you. A little thank you card from us, because we love you. Little charm. Different. The charm is different for each one. So it could be a wand, it could be a star, it could be a moon. That is how we're sending them. And the wrapping. And here we are. This is a two-piece box, and it's beautiful. We're very, very happy with how this came out. Go ahead and break this open. Without cutting myself. There we go. So our logo, 1848 to 1906, and our website. Again, it's a two-piece box. Oh, and on the back is 9 images from the deck. These, of course, are California poppies. So California Tarot Shadows and Light, created by Lyn Dunagan and James Pascoe. Okay, and it's an 84-page guidebook. It's got a little bit of a little overview. For people who are new to tarot, it should be a little bit informative. The guidebook has a little bit of information about each of the cards and some of the history that influenced our selection of these images. In the back, we have some tarot spreads. So again, if you're new to tarot and you want some ideas for some easy spreads, we have 1 card, 2 card, 3 card spreads. We also have our exclusive California Dream spread based on the California seal. Okay. And the cards are shrink wrapped inside as well to keep them safe during transit. And here we go. So we have the Fool, who is beginning his journey at the gold fields. This is a monarch butterfly, which is, of course, the butterfly is a symbol of transition and transformation. We have a coyote, his name is Puppy. He will see him throughout the deck. And the donkey's name is Zeke. And he is the stalwart companion. This is the magician, who has all of the tools that he needs. But of course, sometimes, the magician in a reversed position could be a snake oil salesman. You might not always want to trust the magician. The High Priestess. Her, in our historical research, her name is Mary Ellen Pleasant. She was a businesswoman in San Francisco who helped slaves escape to freedom and get jobs. We have the Empress in real life, her name is Doña Benicia Vallejo. And she owned a winery, among other things. She also had 17 children, so very, very fertile. Our emperor is General Mariano Guadalupe Vallejo, and he was the general of Alta California before statehood, and he was a very strong proponent of America absorbing California, and so he was also one of the first state senators that represented the state. This is his crest, and these are California quail. This is the Hierophant, and his historical reference is G. Gam. He was the first Chinese ordained Congregationalist minister, and he preached for equality and justice for all. So he was kind of a cool character. And we have the lovers. So here we have the Fool, and he has married his sweetheart, whose name is Adelita. Here's Puppy and Zeke, avocados and oranges, which are part of California's rich history. The Chariot, here again we have Puppy and Zeke, and our happily married couple have now gained the magician's wagon, and they are on their way. Strength. Adelita has rescued a mountain lion from a traveling circus, and she is walking it home to a sanctuary. The Hermit. This is located in Yosemite National Park. The Hermit is Galen Clark, who is the first white park ranger. The Wheel of Fortune. Here you see the Fool and Adelita. The Fool is losing his hat and lost his balance, but he's going to hang on until fortunes change. And Zeke, their companion, knows when to keep his feet on the ground. Justice. The Hanged Man. Again, Fool has misstepped, and Raven is laughing at him, and Owl is standing by as well. Death. Temperance. The Devil. The Tower. This is San Francisco during the 1906 earthquake. Fool, Adelita, Zeke, and Puppy are fleeing the destruction. This is the Star. Adelita and Puppy are in Oakland. This is the Oakland Observatory, and which was originally located in downtown Oakland and was later moved to the Oakland Hills and renamed the Chabot Observatory. This is the Moon, and we're in Joshua Tree National Park. The Sun. We're down in Southern California near San Diego. judgment. Fool and Adelita are about to get on a steamboat called the Phoenix. And the preacher's horn says, forgive. And this is the world. So we're down in the desert far east of Los Angeles. And we've got poppies and the golden trout, the grizzly bear, and a red-tailed hawk, rounding out the four elements in the four corners. So welcome to the Ace of Wands. This is Queen Khalifa. She is the muse for the deck. She was a fictional black warrior queen who commanded a whole tribe of warrior women, and she graces all of our aces, and she is the spirit of the deck. All right, the Two of Wands features John Fremont, and this is Lake Tahoe. So he's standing on the shore of Lake Tahoe. He did a lot of surveying and map making as he entered California, and he has a very varied history in California. The Three of Wands features the Pony Express and the advent of the telegraph, which ended the Pony Express. But this is located up in the foothills near, you'd probably say the foothills around Placerville. I think there's in Grass Valley. The Four of Wands is a Chinese New Year's parade down in Los Angeles. The parades have been going on for over 150 years down there and throughout California. The Five of Wands. This is based on the Muscle Slough tragedy, in which the tenant farmers were fighting with the railroad for land. The railroad promised to the farmers that they would be able to purchase the land at a cheap rate, and then then they switched and they quadrupled the cost of the land, and the farmers rebelled. This is the Six of Wands. Eleanor Creasy was a navigator, and she was married to Josiah. And the ship in the background is the Flying Cloud, which broke twice, broke the speed records from New York to San Francisco on a clipper ship. This is the Seven of Wands. So this is the representing the Modoc War, which up in the lava beds up in northeastern California. And I'm going to mangle the name of our character, but his name was Kintpwash. And my apologies for that, because I've never heard it actually pronounced. But he was also known as Captain Jack, and he led his tribe to protest being relocated from their homeland to a reservation. This is the Eight of Wands. This is the Buffalo Soldiers, led by Charles Young. They were the first rangers who protected Yosemite as a group, Yosemite and Sequoia National Park. And Charles Young was the first Black superintendent of a national park. This is the Nine of Wands. And this is Hung Hua. He was a Chinese headman for the Central Pacific Railroad. he gathered workers and got contracts for building the railroad. This is the Ten of Wands. This is John Thompson. He was a Norwegian who emigrated to California, and he delivered mail and medicine and supplies to people who were in settlements in the far back country, so where it was really difficult to get to. And he was the first mail carrier who used skis to get into the back country. This is the Page of Wands. This is Tai Leung. She was rescued from sexual slavery. Her parents were going to sell her into marriage when she was 12, and so she ran away, and then joined up with the Cameron House to rescue other girls and women from servitude. And she became one of the first Chinese American women to have a federal civil service job. So she ended up creating a lot of firsts. Our Knight of Wands is James Beckwith. He was a mountain man, an adventure explorer. A raider. He did all kinds of active things. He's also famous for finding a pass through the Sierra Nevada mountains, and it's now called Beckworth Pass, so it's named after him. The Queen of Wands is Jessie Fremont. We saw earlier the Two of Wands was John Fremont. This is his wife, Jessie. She was a powerful force. She documented all of his travels, and she was kind of the power behind his work. She's definitely Queen of Wands energy there. And the King of Wands is Amedeo Peter Giannini. He was an Italian immigrant, and he created the Bank of Italy because the other savings and loan banks refused to lend to Italian immigrants. So he said, to heck with that, and he created his own bank. The Bank of Italy later became the Bank of America, and his actions helped California to become independent of outside investors. And after the 1906 earthquake, he set up a bank he set up a table on the wharf down in North Beach and made loans to locals just on a handshake. And he almost single-handedly helped people get back on their feet. So you have a very strong sense of right and passion for the common person. So here we have the Ace of Cups, and again, it's Queen Khalifa, and she's standing in the waterfall. This is at Burney Falls. Our Two of Cups. This is Ramona and her lover Alejandro. So Ramona, if you came through California as a school child in the 70s, you probably were introduced to Helen Hunt Jackson, who was an advocate for Native American rights. And she wrote a fictional story about Ramona and Alejandro that were based on people that and other events that were actually true. And she created a fictional novel, and that novel became a bestseller. It remains a bestseller. It's opened readers to a different culture. So it was really successful in moving people outside of their comfort zone. And this is an oasis in the San Gabriel Mountains near Los Angeles. So the Three of Cups, representing community. Here we have three barbers and a customer. This is Peter Biggs. He was one of the first people to open a barbershop in Los Angeles. He escaped from slavery when he came to California, and he ended up owning almost all of the barbershops in Southern California. So here's the Four of Cups. This is a Basque shepherd. The Basques came to California and kind of became well known for herding sheep. And the Five of Cups. This was after a flood in Guerneville. There was a huge amount of rain that fell between December 1861 and January 1862. There was a ton of flooding. It rained for like 40 days, and just the Central Valley became a lake. So here's a woman who's lost almost everything, but not quite. Here's our Six of Cups. Our Seven of Cups. This is Emperor Norton. He's pretty famous for being kind of a crazy person running around San Francisco in the early days. He had been a very successful businessman, but then he lost all of his money on a bad deal and sort of lost his mind. But he was a strong advocate for the Oakland Bay Bridge, which is the structure behind him. And he had declared himself Norton the First, Emperor of the United States and Protector of Mexico. He's a colorful character. The Eight of Cups. Mifflin Gibbs is our figure for the Eight of Cups. He and his partner Peter Lester opened a couple of clothing stores and shoe stores, and he started off as a carpenter, and then went into the millinery business. And he eventually left California because the racism and prejudice that he experienced was just so astronomical. And here he is walking away from his business. So this is the Nine of Cups. This is Lotta's Fountain, which is still in downtown San Francisco. And this is Lotta Crabtree. She was a child star in Grass Valley, and she entertained the miners, and she did a state tour. She came to San Francisco. She was just the darling of San Francisco, and she toured the country and internationally as a singer, dancer, entertainer. So we have the 9 cups placed around the fountain and a couple of squirrels. So this is the 10 of Cups. This is Alvin Aaron Coffey and his wife Mahalia and their children. They lived up in Shasta County eventually. Alvin was born into slavery in Kentucky, and he was brought to California, where he worked for his freedom. He bought his freedom, and his enslaver took him back to Kentucky and sold him again. So the second enslaver brought him back to California, where he again worked day by day for other people, and at night he worked for himself. And in this manner, he was able to buy his freedom a second time and buy the freedom of his wife and children. and they were eventually reunited in Shasta County, and they did have as much of a happily ever after as anyone could. This is the Page of Cups, and Anna Maida Hires was as a singer and musical prodigy, and she and her sister and her family presented entertainment and cultural experiences, not minstrelry. So she represents our page, and she did one of the first African-American plays set in Africa. She was described as a rare musical talent. We have our Knight of Cups, and this is John Muir, and he's in Yosemite, and just standing in near a field of wildflowers. He's actually standing in the river, and he's offering a tin cup instead of a chalice. But he spoke out for nature with such passion that we couldn't help but use him for this night. This is the Queen of Cups. So this is Winema. She's a Modoc woman, and she is located up near Tule Lake. She was an interpreter and a peacemaker. She worked during the Modoc War. She's actually a cousin of Captain Jack, who was our Seven of Wands. She worked to try to make peace between the whites in the army and her people. So she received a pension from the U.S. Army for her work, and one of the commissioners said that had her counsel been taken, the Peace Commission massacre would not have occurred. So, yeah. And this is the King of Cups. This is Thomas Starr King. He was a lecturer and a speaker who visited Yosemite in 1860, and he lectured up and down California in the 1860s in support of progressive causes. He's credited with single-handedly saving California from joining the Confederacy right before the Civil War. So we're at the Ace of Swords, and here we have Queen Khalifa. She's wielding a sword as lightning crackles down from the sky. She's standing near the minarets, which is protecting the eastern Sierra Nevada mountains. It's down around Mammoth Lakes. Here we have the Two of Swords. This is Donaldina Cameron and Tien Fu Wu, who are sitting in their San Francisco parlor near Chinatown. And this is the moon in the background, and they worked together for years to rescue women and girls from slavery. This is the Three of Swords, and this is located down in San Diego, near the Torrey Pines, the Torrey Pines area. And in 1852, San Diego grand jury recommended taking away the reservations that they had promised to the Kumeyaay. Sorry, I'm mangling that word as well. They basically broke treaty with the local Indian population, as we do. So the Four of Swords, this is Ina Coolbrith. She was the first female poet laureate in California. And she was also actually the first white child to enter California, and she came in through Beckworth Pass with Beckworth, who, as we just saw, was in the Knight of Wands. She's our Four of Swords. She was a librarian and supported her mother and two children. So she's resting. So this is the Five of Swords. This is the Owens Lake area. And this is Frederick Eaton, William Mulholland, and a farmer. Frederick Eaton was the mastermind behind the Owens Valley project that created the Los Angeles aqueduct that took all of the water from Owens Valley and brought it to Los Angeles, basically enabling Los Angeles to become the big city that it is. In doing so, he tricked a lot of local farmers and ranchers into giving up their water rights and into selling their homes and ranches at a vastly diminished price. So a lot of people think that he was kind of a cheater. And even Mulholland, who built the aqueduct, walked away from him at one point in time. So the Six of Swords, we see a six-horse carriage being driven by Charlie Parkhurst. Now, Charlie was born Charlotte. Charlie Parkhurst became a stagecoach driver. He was a farmer and a rancher, and he shepherded people all through California. So this is the Seven of Swords. This is Joaquin Murrieta, and he was either a folk hero or a murderer, depending on who you talk to and which stories you believe. He was one of the people who became the model for Zorro. So, again, a lot of people's history depend on who you ask. And here we have the Eight of Swords. This is Clara Foltz. She was the first woman lawyer in California. And here she's standing beside her desk, wearing her graduation cap. And this is UC Hastings Law School, which is behind her. And here she is breaking free of the social bonds and restrictions that have been imposed on her. And the Eight Swords are the feathers. The Justice has a sword here. They're surrounding her. But she breaks free. She can do that. Here's the Nine of Swords. This is William Ralston. He was a wealthy man. He co-founded the Bank of California. He was an investor in silver mines, and basically he made his fortune through a lot of shady foreclosures, and he just had he was really smooth. He had a smooth tongue, and he just got a lot of people to trust in him and invest in him. And then all of a sudden, one of his stock selling schemes in a diamond mine fell through, and the scheme collapsed. The failure cascaded through the city and created a run on the banks. And here he is ruining the day, and the day after the bank crashed, he went out for his daily swim and never came back. So the Ten of Swords. This is David Broderick and David Terry. They were friends, but David Terry was a pro-Confederate, pro-slavery And David Broderick was a Union. He backed the Union. He was anti-slavery, and they got into a fight and was challenged to a duel. David Terry said, "Let's use my guns." So they agreed to use his guns. Little did Broderick know, but Terry had sabotaged his gun. So they are they're in San Francisco near Lake Merced. So this is the shore of Lake Merced in San Francisco, and that fatal wound has just been dealt. So this is the Page of Swords. This is Laura DeForest Gordon. She was the second woman who became a lawyer in California. She and Clara Foltz, who you just saw on the Eight of Swords, they worked together to sue for admittance to law school. She was a suffragist. She was a spiritualist. She was a trance speaker and a medium. And she became San Francisco's first recorded speech on women and the vote. And when she passed the bar, she became known for her trial defenses. She also bought the Stockton Leader, which is a newspaper in Stockton. So she became a journalist and editor. And this is actually in Stockton. This is the Knight of Swords. This is Philip Alexander Bell, and he is in San Francisco. He's riding his horse with his newspaper in his hand. So this is, again, where the sword is represented by the pen, and the pen is mightier than the sword. He was a temperamental journalist and editor who was assertive in advocating for equal rights and civil rights for his community. This is the Queen of Swords. So this is Mary Tape. She is sitting in her throne atop Mount Tamalpais in San Francisco. She is holding on her lap a pen and a copy of the California Supreme Court ruling that allows her daughter to go to school. So Chinese children were not allowed to go to school, and she initiated a lawsuit to change that. The King of Swords, this is J.B. Sanderson, Jeremiah Burke Sanderson, and he's considered the father of Black education in California. He established several churches and schools that focused on education for Black kids, and he was in Sacramento, San Francisco, Oakland, and Stockton. Those are the four areas that he spent the most time in. And he helped found the state's Franchise League in 1862, which helped to secure the rights of testimony, education, and voting. We've reached the Pentacles. So here we are in Napa region, and our Queen Khalifa is holding the pentacle for this suit. So here's the Two of Pentacles. This is Frank Munoz. He was a mule driver and an explosive expert and a vaquero in the Central Valley area. And he came up from Mexico to bring his expertise to help the San Luis Obispo and the Southern Pacific Railway build tunnels through the Cuesta Grade. So this is the hills in the background. And after the railroad was complete, he stayed in the region and helped clear land that was eventually became almond groves and walnut groves in Paso Robles. So he's juggling some explosives here. This is the Three of Pentacles. This is Julia Morgan. She was a fairly famous architect. She earned an engineering degree from UC Berkeley and then an architecture degree in Paris. And she came back to California and designed buildings for Phoebe Hearst and UC Berkeley, Mills College. This is the Mills College Campanile. And this structure was significant because after the 1906 earthquake, her structures were most of her structures survived because she was the first to use reinforced concrete, which is a relatively new material at the time. So this is the Four of Pentacles, and Wong Kim Ark is standing on the steamer, the Coptic in San Francisco Bay. He was born in California and born in San Francisco in 1873, and he traveled to and from China occasionally. And one time when he came back from China in 1895, he was denied re-entry because of the Chinese Exclusion Act. And he sued, and his case went up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they ruled in his favor because of the birthright citizenship. So this is where birthright citizenship kind of comes from. This is the Five of Pentacles. So this is an elderly couple. They are buffeted by cold and windy San Francisco winter. And this is the Midwinter Fair in the background. So the Midwinter Fair was an effort for San Francisco to recover from the 1893 financial panic, and to show that San Francisco and California were financially viable and trying to create jobs. But this is a big symbol of the disparity between the people that had jobs and the majority of people who did not. This is the Six of Pentacles, and this is the Reverend John Jameson Moore. He's extending a hand down to a parishioner who is in turn extending her hand down to a younger parishioner at the bottom of the steps. And this is a symbol of lifting as we rise. So this is a symbol of we all need to help each other. This is the Seven of Pentacles. This is Ulysses Shinsei Kaneko. He's the first Japanese naturalized citizen, and he went to Riverside and San Bernardino. He started several orange orchards down there. This is the Eight of Pentacles, featuring Isabel Hansen. She's a Panamint Shoshone basket maker. So this is Death Valley in the background, and these are some examples of her work with the pentacles superimposed on them. She was known for making large baskets and collecting traditional native baskets was popular in the 1880s, although the customers were less enamored of the actual people that made the baskets. This is the Nine of Pentacles. This is featuring Annie Montague Alexander. She was an heiress to some of the C&H sugar fortune, and she became enchanted with philanthropy and paleontology and zoology, and she became a leading scientific collector and discovered several new species. She worked with UC Berkeley to establish the Museum of Vertebrate Zoology and the Museum of Paleontology. She also lived for 42 years with her partner, Louise Kellogg, and together they collected and documented over 22,000 specimens. This is the Ten of Pentacles, and this is a group of intertribal representatives doing the ghost dance. So the ghost dance brought together young and old, male and female, people from multiple tribes throughout California and even into Oregon and Nevada. And it's a way of saying we're still here because our native population is not extinct. They're still a very vital part of California. Here's the Page of Pentacles. This is Florence Hutchings, and she was a bold, tomboy, vivacious ambassador to Yosemite visitors, and she didn't like dresses, and she didn't conform to ladylike behavior. She died young. She was injured in a rock fall while she was out riding horses. This is the Knight of Pentacles. This is featuring Ah Lewis, also known as An Wang. He came to California for the gold rush and settled in San Luis Obispo. And he initially worked as a hotel cook, and then because he was fluent in multiple languages, he began organizing work crews for the railroads. And he ended up earning several construction contracts, and he later he opened a store in San Luis Obispo selling groceries and goods. So here he's out riding, racing against a railroad and in the agricultural field. Here's the Queen of Pentacles. This is Bridget Biddy Mason. So she came to California as a slave, and she sued for her freedom because at that point California did not allow slavery. And this is the San Gabriel Mountains in the background. So after she won her freedom, she started buying real estate. And she became one of the trailblazers in finance, and she amassed a multi-million-dollar real estate empire that she and her children shared. This is the King of Pentacles, and this is Leland Stanford. And in the background, we have a tapestry of the Central Pacific Railroad, and urns with the railroad logo, and of course Stanford University logo, which is the university he started. He's probably one of the most well-known of the big four railroad barons. He founded Stanford University. He was a governor of California. He has an interesting background. And this is one of two special cards that we developed in the deck. Put them side by side. These are obviously not part of tarot, but this is exclusive to the first edition of the California Tarot Shadows and Light. So this is for the Dia de los Muertos and the summer solstice. And that's it. Thank you so much for sticking with us through this walkthrough. I think we'll put together some videos of more in-depth, looking at more behind the history of each of the cards. We'll probably break them up into suits. So again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Bye.